Hello, everyone. My name is Gavin Race, and my topic is the negative impact of teens on social media. Social media can have an impact on teens' lives in devastating ways if they're not careful and cautious while using social media. As of right now, we all live in a time where social media is a huge part of everyone's everyday lives, such as Instagram, Facebook, pretty much any online feature that also correlates with our phones. Social media can also, though, be used in very positive ways, such as spreading your business or product that you may have to millions of people with just simply one photo off your phone or one text off your phone. It can also have a very big impact on teens, specifically lives, in devastating ways if the parent or they are not cautious of how much they are into it. It can increase the risk of them being cyberbullied. It can also cause large amounts of depression to occur by just constantly looking at others and having this world painted in a different picture of a lot of maybe not true things are always said on social media that sometimes some may not be able to pick up on. Social media can also increase the chance of suicide by causing large amounts of depression. Those kind of two go hand in hand. Depression can lead to suicide often. Maybe sometimes you don't really pick up that your family member is depressed, so you can't sometimes make the correlation. But social media can increase that chance of suicide by just always having your mind think that you're not good enough because of something that somebody posted or something that, all these other people have better stuff than you. Always thinking that because that's how social media sometimes can portray other people and products and things. Social media can also have a huge impact in this case of cyberbullying. Social media a lot of the times can be very cruel to other people and can be a really bad place for teens a lot of the time as far as bullying. I'd like to read a quote by Emke, and it says, "Peer acceptance is a big thing for adolescents, and many of them care about their image as much as a politician running for office. And to them, it can feel as serious. Add to that the fact that kids today are getting actual polling data on how much people like them or their appearance via things such as likes." Another quote by the social media and teens, and how does the social media affect mentally? They need to gain likes on social media can cause teens to make choices that they would otherwise not make, including altering their appearance, engaging in negative behaviors, and accepting risky social media challenges. End quote. Another quote by Emke is, "So kids can spend hours pruning their online identities trying to project an idealized image. Teenage girls sort through hundreds of photos or agonizing over which ones to post. Boys compete for attention by trying to outgross one another, pushing the envelope as much as they can in already disinhabited atmosphere online. Kids gang up on each other." End quote. Adolescents have always faced peer pressure, but social media has also just added that extra dimension of that it's on a whole other level, that when there was peer pressure at school, when there wasn't as big of an emphasis on social media, it kind of just at least stayed at school. But now the peer pressure and such like stuff like that can pretty much stay with you throughout the days and constant. It can always be a constant, like social media is and can be. Uh, Depression is also another big thing that happens. Obviously, when such as when somebody sees other pictures of how perfect others' lives look according to social media and how it is portrayed and that by that person, it can cause depression on others for feeling like they, are not living their best lives, or they could, they're living a better life than I am and they have better stuff. Uh, Researchers found sudden increase. This is a quote by Garcia Navarro. Researchers found a sudden increase in teens' symptoms and depression/suicide risk factors and suicide rates in 2012, around the time that smartphones became popular, end quote. That's also a big thing that obviously the correlation is not just, random. It is a fact that as far as smartphones have come out and social media has become even bigger of a thing, kids have obviously found the added pressure from the social media world and how it's affecting their lives, and in negative and sometimes positive, but a lot of them negative ways, such as the high suicide rates. Another quote by Garcia Navarro is, "Whether teens are watching cat videos or looking at something more serious, the amount of screen time, not the specific content, goes hand in hand with the higher instances of depression." See, they found out that sometimes it just doesn't matter if you're watching necessarily negative things or bad things. The overexposure to the media and not really having an actual social life, a social experience with one-on-one human contact, can lead to feelings of sadness and lead to depression. Suicide's also a major issue, obviously. Sometimes, a lot of the time, depression can lead into suicide. And a study by the Social Media and Teen Anxiety, one study found that 48% of teens who spent 5 hours per day on an electronic device have at least one suicide risk factor, compared to 33% of teens who spend 2 hours a day on an electronic device. Another quote, researchers found that teens who spend 5 or more hours per day on their devices are 71% more likely to have one risk factor for suicide. And that regardless of the content consumed, end quote. Another quote by Garcia Navarro. I think a great rule for teens and adults is to try to keep your use at 2 hours a day or less. And then you put down that phone and you spend the rest of your time on things that are better for your mental health and happiness, like sleeping, seeing friends and family face to face, getting out and exercising. These are all things that are linked to a better mental health. So if you use the phone to facilitate those things rather than stand in their way, that's a good way to go about it. End quote by Garcia Navarro. And I think that's a big thing too, to don't always rely on your phone for your only social outlet, because stuff like this can happen and it ends up negatively affecting you socially. Social media isn't the worst thing in the world, and you shouldn't always, just completely eliminate it, but you shouldn't ever prioritize it over real family and friends and spending time with them, because they're very important in your life. Social media, in a good and bad way, is always around us, all the time. We need to be aware of these pitfalls and dangers of it so we can better prepare our teens and young ones and family members to spend less time on it, or at least manage our time so we don't just spend every waking moment of every day on it and become blocked from the outside world. By following our prophet and listening to the Spirit, we can also avoid most of these dangers. It's another main thing, is if you're not sure of why you are feeling sad and maybe something like that, listen to your prophets and maybe say prayers to Heavenly Father and ask Him what's wrong and whatever you need help with. You should also, this is a quote from 5 Things the Prophet invites you all 5 things the prophet invites all youth to do now. Give yourself a 7-day break from fake. Its power to create a sense of false reality and become a distraction from the whisperings of the Spirit is detrimental. And I think that is very true, that you should always, and such as everything, we always hear, moderation in everything. And that goes for social media as well. You shouldn't always rely on something so much that, when something happens in social media or you don't have it, you lose your mind and you don't know what to do. We should always have a balance in our life of something, not too much, not too little. And I think that goes for social media as well. I know a lot of my family members, and I have been a user of social media, and I've seen some of the negatives and some of the positives that it has. And I really agree that I think it is all about managing that balance of how much you are on and not letting it take over your life. Allowing yourself to, you should always allow yourself to, that's with anything such as video games or, watching TV, anything. You should always make time for your family and friends and people that are always your loved ones over stuff that is not really there and not all the time real. You should always stay away from that kind of stuff that can be, misinterpreted, stuff like that, such as social media. And I'd like to thank you guys for this.